We are going to discuss the case of People of the Philippines versus Jericho Vallejo, General Registered number 144656 of May 9, 2005, for the rape, slaying of a 9-year-old child. Information charging the accused appellant Jericho Vallejo with the crime of rape with homicide. The accused appellant was arraigned. During the arraignment, he pleaded not guilty to the crime charge. Daisy Diolola E. Detalo, a 9-year-old child who was the victim, and Jericho Vallejo, the accused that committed the crime. During the trial, there are 10 witnesses who testified for the prosecution, namely Marian Nida Diolola, the mother of a 9-year-old victim, Jessamine Matavert, one of the neighbor that saw Daisy and the accused together, Chariot Yepes, another that saw Jericho in the seashore, Renato Abotan, the municipal mayor of Rosario, Cavite, Attorney Lupo Leyva, corroborated Mayor's Abotan testimony, Pet Byron Buwan, the NBI forensic biologist, Elpidia Ito, the inquest prosecutor, and Attorney Sikat Agunag, lawyer from the Public Attorney's Office, Agapito S. Lu, the city prosecutor of Cavite, and lastly, Dr. Vert Tido, who examined the victim's body during autopsy. So now, let's proceed to the testimonies of the witnesses. Mrs. Maria Nida Diolola testified that she sent her child, Daisy Diolola, to their neighbor's house, which is the house of the accused, so that Amy Vallejo, the sister of the accused, could help Daisy with her lessons. But when Daisy arrived at the house, Amy was not there, and Jericho Vallejo is the one who assisted the victim.
According to Jessamine Matavert, one of the neighbors, she testified on that day. Daisy was watching television on her house. She positioned herself by the doorway of Jessamine's house, allowing her to get a view from the outside while enjoying her favorite shows. After about 5 minutes, the accused appellant made his way to the house. He approached Daisy and engaged her in conversation, conveying something that seemed to be important to her. Daisy left the house of Jessamine together with Jericho, and that's the last time they saw Daisy alive. Charito Yepes, another neighbor, according to her, she encountered the accused appellant, Jericho Vallejo, near the station. She noticed that Jericho seemed uneasy and appeared to the distress. Also, Charito pointed out that the accused appellant did not even greet her, which was unusual. She also said that she observed the short and sando of Jericho were wet, but his hair and face were not. Renato Abutan, the municipal mayor of Rosario, Cavite. According to him, he told the accused appellant, Jericho Vallejo, that he could not help him if he would not tell the truth. At that point, Jericho Vallejo started crying and confessed to the mayor that he killed the 9-year-old victim. Not just killed her, but also raped her. The accused appellant also claimed that was under the influence of illegal drugs. Attorney Lobo Leyva corroborated Mayor Abotan's testimony. Attorney Leyva testified that he told the accused appellant that everything he said and confessed to Mayor Abotan can be used against him. But the accused appellant are willing to be investigated. So, Attorney Leyva advised him to tell the truth. It was the same statement as he confessed earlier to Mayor Abotan.
Pet Byron Buwan, the NBI forensic biologist who took the blood samples from the accused appellant. He testified that before he took the blood samples, he had a conversation with the accused appellant, which he admitted that he had raped and later killed the 9-year-old victim, by strangulation, and he also testified that he was willing to accept the punishment because of the grievous offense he had committed. When the accused appellant was brought before inquest prosecutor Elfidia G. Hitok at around noon of July 13, 1999 in Cavite City, accused appellant had with him a handwritten confession which he had done inside his cell at the municipal jail of Rosario, Cavite. In his confession, he admitted not only that he killed the victim but also he had before raped her. He also said that he laid down the victim on a grassy area near the dike. Attorney Sikat Agbunag, a lawyer from the Public Attorney's Office, testified that he assessed the accused appellant about his confession. Accused appellant said that he had freely and voluntarily made the document because he was bothered by his conscience. At the presence of City Prosecutor Agapito S. Lo of Cavite City, NBI forensic biologist Pet Byron Buan took buccal swabs and hair samples from the accused appellant as well as buccal swabs and hair samples from the parents of the victim, namely Marianida and Arnolfo Gionola. The samples were submitted to the DNA laboratory of the NBI for the examination. During the autopsy, Dr. Bertido took a vaginal swabs of the victim. The samples taken are positive that it contained the DNA profiles of the accused appellant. The trial court rendered a decision finding the accused appellant guilty for the offense charged.
In every case, there is an issue. In this case, People of the Philippines versus Greco Vallejo, there are three issues. First, whether circumstantial evidence and witness testimony presented by the prosecution sufficiently prove Vallejo's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. In circumstantial evidence, we have two types of circumstantial evidence, such as direct and indirect evidence. In this case, the circumstantial evidence used is indirect because in the witness testimonies, they only saw the accused appellant, but they did not actually see if he was the one who killed the victim. The testimony of some of the witnesses can be considered as hearsay evidence because it was not directly stated by the accused before the court. Second, the admissibility and validity of Vallejo's oral and written confession. Third, the claim of forced confessions and the advocacy of legal presentation during custodial investigation. In these two issues, it says that the confession of Vallejo is admissible or not. In fact, that Vallejo's claim that during custodial investigation, there is force exerted and he was tortured to confess. So, these issues will be answered in the court of ruling.
In court ruling, the Supreme Court affirmed the trial court's decision, finding Vallejo guilty of rape with homicide. The decision highlighted the following. First, the circumstantial evidence combined with witness testimonies was compelling enough to establish guilt. This means that through combination of circumstantial evidence and the witness testimonies, proved that Vallejo committed the crime, even that some of the testimonies were considered as hearsay evidence. But the fact that all their testimonies are connected and the same. Additional, according to the testimony of Jessamine Monteverde, that the accused approached the victim in Jessamine's house and he told something to Daisy. For the reason, the victim left Jessamine's house together with Vallejo. At that point, you can sense that there is something suspicious with Vallejo's action. Second, Vallejo's confession, both oral and written, were deemed voluntarily and admissible, despite of his claims of coercion, as they were corroborated by his legal counsel, presence, and the physical evidence. It means that all the testimonies were admissible as well as the confession of Vallejo. And it was also proved by the presence of his legal counsel, despite of his claims of coercion, that there were force and torture happened during the custodial investigation. It also proves through the support of physical evidences and the result of DNA examination. Third and lastly, the court dismissed the torture claims due to lack of supporting evidence and inconsistencies with the nature of Vallejo's injuries. As what I had said earlier about Vallejo's claims of torture during custodial investigation, but it was dismissed by the court due to the lack of supporting evidence, such as medical certificate. The failed to present medical certificate before the court about the torture happened, and it was observed and seen during the trial that there is no presence of physical injury that made the court dismiss the claim.
In the case of People of the Philippines versus Jericho Vallejo, the evidence analysis used to establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt included circumstantial evidence, forensic evidence, witness testimonies, and confessions. In circumstantial evidence, the circumstances surrounding the crime were pieced together to form a reasonable description that pointed to Vallejo's guilt. It includes the witness testimonies and a sequence of events leading to the discovery of the victim's body. In witness testimonies, the eyewitness accounts were critical in establishing the timeline and interaction between Vallejo and the victim. In confession, the confession made by Vallejo, oral and written, were analyzed by the court for their admissibility and voluntariness. And lastly, the forensic evidence that played a crucial role in the case. During investigation, the medical legal officer took a vaginal swab in the victim and buccal swab in the accused appellant. Based from the DNA test that was conducted by the medical legal officer and forensic expert, the test was pivotal as it is provided scientific link to the crime, which the court found compelling enough to sentence Vallejo to death and order him to pay for the damages of the victim's family.